Hi, and welcome back to Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood. Hey, Jo, how are you?
I am good. It is the final day of boot camp. Oh my goodness.
Oh, mad as well. I'm always so surprised when it's the last day.
Do you know what? They say that time flies when you're having fun. And I really have felt like we've had so much fun this week. I feel like we've learnt loads, but it's just been really enjoyable.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. We were talking to Jill in our team. Jill supports us with looking after the Success Lounge, and she does lots of check-ins and welcomes people into the program, and she's sort of there for troubleshooting, and she's just got a really different style to us. A really like nurturing but different view of the world, I suppose. And Jill was saying to us when we had our team meeting how much energy there was this week, and that was really nice to hear. As she sends us little messages, well done girls, and it's just like, because obviously we just get on with it, but it was nice to hear. I'd love, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear what you think, what your feedback is, what we can do next time, what you'd like to see more of, because it just helps us do better and better stuff. But yeah, it's really nice to hear that, wasn't it?
It was really nice, and it has felt like it. And I think everyone's feeling it. We just did an accountability call with the Success Lounge members, and people were like, it's September, it feels like a fresh start. Everyone's feeling like, yeah, we've got this. Like, you might be feeling, there was quite a few people like, how long does the tiredness last once they've gone back to school? I think we always assume that this first week is going to be mega, mega productive. But sometimes, I've definitely had it, and you've had it with your children as well. It's a transition. So they've had a little bit, of ups and downs. And so it's not been as smooth as we always assume. But it definitely does feel like the next stage of the year. And it's been really lovely to spend this week with all of you, learning and growing and thinking about how we're going to smash 2023, come out of it winning.
Yeah, like all the goals we were talking about on Tuesday night in the group, in the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club, we've got this really great window now. Like, I can't believe you go in the shops and everything's full of Halloween. I took my kids, one of the activities we did over the holidays, we had a summer holiday jar, because like we haven't gone on a holiday or anything. We've done a few nights camping and things, but I was like, how do I make this really fun so the kids feel like they can choose fun things they want to do? And we just sort of kept it local. And we had all these Post-it notes in a jar, and I was getting them to choose things out of there. And one of the things was that they wanted fancy dress. My daughter was like, I've grown out of everything. I really want some fancy dress. So we went and got Halloween outfits. I was like, how are we getting ready for Halloween? Because I was like, you can have fancy dress, but I feel like you have actually got enough, but we will need a fancy dress costume for Halloween. So how are we?
That's the thing with kids, isn't it? They grow every year. They need new things, and it doesn't stop. My daughter's just gone from a size 4 shoe to size 6 in 6 months. Yes. So everything is costing, and it's trainers, which is so expensive. Yes. So that was all she got for her birthday, was just many different pairs of trainers. But that's what they want. Yeah. They love it. And also, riding leggings, because everything was like right up her legs. She's just shot up. Hopefully she'll stay this size for a little bit longer. Oh, goodness. So I can see so many of you are in the habit of saying #live because you're here. And we can see the hedgehog from Helen. Thank you, Helen, for joining us. So today, this session we called it the 3 things to prepare to exit your business. So as some of you may know, that on August the 15th, I actually sold my practice, Jo Wood Virtual FD, after starting it as a sole trader in April 19, but I went limited in 2020. So 3 years of a limited company, building that. And and I just sold it. It wasn't something that I was preparing for, in the fact that not now, but I've always had exit in mind. And sometimes that feels a bit counterintuitive. We're here today to talk about, and this week, about growing your business, attracting those clients, putting in the systems, processes, all of the good stuff. And you're thinking, why are you talking about exit? We've only just got started. Well, the truth is, every business should be thinking about their exit strategy, whatever that looks like. And that could be 30, 40 years down the line. It could be 3 years. It could be, there's multiple ways of exiting. So we're going to talk about that, and then talk about ways to, prepare it really for a sale. Because I think this has helped me in multiple ways in my business, because I have these conversations with my clients all the time, and it's really helped with this transition. But also, again, this is that advisory piece that you should be having these conversations with your clients, because not enough people think about it. If you think about, when we get started in business, we have this idea of freedom. We have this idea of getting to choose things for ourselves and all of this. This is just an extension of that. This is just making sure we know that whatever the future looks like, we're prepared for it at that point in time. Now, you need to think firstly about what is exit and all the different ways that you can exit. So there are multiple people that will retire at an older age and not have a plan and just shut up shop. I'm sure you've all seen it. And I saw it as well in COVID, when some clients were coming to me and said, I just can't get hold of my accountant. He's disappeared off the face of the earth. So some people just decide to shut their doors, and maybe they'll have somebody that they want to pass the work on to, but maybe not. So that is one way of exiting, like retiring and just shutting the doors. And that's a choice that you can choose to do that. You can sell at one point in time. You can sell the practice. There's multiple ways of selling. You can sell like assets. You can sell the shares. There's multiple ways of doing that. And you can sell all of the business, or you can sell parts of the business. That was an option given to me as well. So there's lots of ways of doing the selling thing. But the other way, which I don't think people think about as of in this kind of, when you think about exit, you don't think of this. It's about removing yourself so much from the operations and day-to-day that you become kind of like the head of the board, the president, or, somebody that just pops in once a quarter, sits around the table and says, tell me what's going on. But you can like exit in that way and not be there operationally.
A lot of our people just want to do that as well, don't they? Like, a lot of people will start working with us and that they want to get to 3 days a week, or eventually thinking about, or I'll speak to people and they say, look, I'm about 10 years from retirement. I can think of someone 10 years from retirement. I want to build this up so that I can then remove myself and it can run and it can create an income for me for the future. And I just want that to be my role.
Absolutely. And that's, we get to choose. This is it. We get to choose how we start a business. We get to choose how we run our business, and we get to choose how we exit our business one day. And I think it's really important to start off really thinking about, what do I want exit to look like? I had a conversation earlier this week with an amazing lady who opened my eyes to something that I've never thought about before. She was talking about breaking generational cycles of whatever that means to you, but maybe from a monetary term. And maybe, we were talking this week about, you might be becoming self-employed, might be something brand new in your family. And the generational cycle of always being employed might be something that you're breaking right now. But she spoke about, what does it look like to be somebody that creates generational wealth for your family? So not just for the children, not just for your partner, not just for your immediate family who are here now, but what would it look like to create generational wealth for the kids that aren't even born in the family yet? Great-grandchildren and great-great-grand. That blew my mind. I've never thought. And I think sometimes, like, this might seem, when you're starting out in business, you might be thinking, how can you be talking about the end? I've only just got started. But we need to, what we focus on gets managed, gets measured, and then we achieve it. And we do have to make a plan. And that plan can be, like I say, for 50 years. It doesn't matter how long it's for, but you do need to make a plan. So today I want to talk mostly about like the 3 big things that I think you need to be thinking about if you want to exit your business in any way, but mainly ready for sale, because I think people are interested in that. I mean, it's something that's quite new in our industry. Firstly, I think it was quite new when I started taking on team members, Zoe, back in the 2010s, 2015. Other bookkeepers weren't taking on team members. They weren't practices of teams. No. They were, and that's why when I looked at you at that time on stage, I'm like, oh, she's like me. She's got a team. It was quite new back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's that's the shift that we've been on over the last few years, isn't it? That actually this can, I think, I don't know, you always say this, that people think of the bookkeeper as wifey in the corner, I think is how you described her, and as a like employed or hourly rate person who goes in, does some filing, and then goes out of the office. And that, I think that's what lots of people's expectations are. And that's part of the reason why we were talking last night about expressing your value, or yesterday lunchtime we did a session about value. And that's maybe partly why we find it so difficult, because there's still this very traditional view of what the bookkeeper is, and people are surprised that it's possible to build a business around this service. But because technology has helped us to do so much more, it's not about a person going in doing things now. It's changed. So I think
I think we've stepped from a bookkeeper being kind of separate to any other kind of service to becoming business owners, but also entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
I think there's definitely been a shift. So then to then go on and be an entrepreneur that sells their business, that's actually worth something to somebody else worthwhile, I think that's been another big shift. And that was part of the reason why I did it, if I'm really honest, to prove it was possible to you guys. Like, it wasn't the only reason, there was other reasons, of course, but part of me was like, I really want to show people what's possible. If you do what we say to do, this is an option for you. Might not be the right option for you. You don't have to take it. But if it is, then brilliant. So I think it's really exciting. And I've spoken to quite a few people since I have sold. And it's interesting that how many people have never thought of this option before and never thought it was going to be possible for someone with our type of business. So I'm really enjoying sharing the fact that it is, and because it's another choice you get to have. And this is so that I think the more choices we have, the more freedom we have. But it doesn't happen by accident. Not every business is going to be saleable for many reasons, and we're going to talk that through. So it's not, you can't build a business and just assume it's going to be someone else is going to want it. There's going to be some things that are going to help you to make it more attractive to somebody that wants to buy it. So I think the first things you need to do to think about preparing, like, these are things you need to do now, regardless of when you want to exit your business, and whichever way you want to exit your business, is to figure out when you think you'd like to exit. If you thought about it now, do you want to retire at 65? Does that sit right with you? Or are you thinking, oh, actually, if I had the choice, I think I'd mostly prefer 55. Or actually, I'm not working a day over 45. What is it for you? You might, and if we don't ask ourselves that question, we can't get that kind of gut reaction if we don't think about it. Love to hear. Yeah, give us some ages. When do you feel you'd like to stop working? Also, remember something else. I'm not stopping working. I've sold my business, but I'm still working. I'm still going to be generating other income. So you can get to choose that as well. You don't have to sell your business doesn't mean it's the end of your working career forever. Is it part of your journey, or do you want that to be the end of the journey? So that's something else to think about that. Yeah. And then thinking about, okay, so when I get to that point in time that I'm going to sell the business, exit the business, whatever, how much money do I want to have at that point? That depends on when you're selling, as to whether you're thinking about, I'd like to clear my mortgage at that point. I'd like to make sure that I have enough money for retirement. I'd like to make sure that the money I make from this sale will be enough to, I don't know, invest in another business. Or what does it look like? So you need to kind of have that kind of income amount of money.
I suppose that as well, like when you think about what you want, this is about goal setting, isn't it? This is about sitting down with your family and your loved ones and everyone who matters to you, like and you know, that was how this sale came about. You had a conversation with your business coach about what's our long-term goal, decided that in the future you wanted to sell, but it was a plan for the future. So then you were thinking about, well, how do we remove ourselves so that that's possible? And I think that around that, obviously we have another business, we have the six-figure bookkeeper, so you knew that was what you were going to be doing and that was your sort of future plan. But you have to have those conversations. Just like, do you remember when we were speaking to is he Tristan Johnson? We were talking to him on the podcast about pensions and other things that you could be doing through your business, like insurances. And we were talking about how probably most of us haven't had a sit down with our family and spoken about what does retirement look like for us. Where do we really want to be living? How many holidays a year do we want to have at that point? You know, what does that actually look like when our children grow up? You keep talking about being an empty nester in 5 years' time, and actually, what will you be doing with yourself then? So even planning those goals from a life perspective, and then thinking, well, okay, what does my business need to be doing, or what does my income generation need to look like at that point, means you can think about it. Because I don't know the details of your sale, but selling your business to Johan might mean that you have a non-compete and you can't go into bookkeeping business again in the future. So you then have to think, okay, is this actually the right fit? It sounds like it would be, but if my goal is to start a new practice, is that the right decision? And I think having the goal, we always say this, having the goal and the values and knowing what you're working towards makes every decision easier, because you've kind of decided the direction. And then if you get an opportunity, you can say, well, does that opportunity get me closer to this or not? And that helps you make the decision. And I think the offer you got, you were able to accept it when you'd done your due diligence, because you knew that it was going to help everyone in your team fulfill their goals in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really interesting that you said that, because actually I forget that I've exited a business before. Not that I forget it, because it was blooming traumatic, but it was a different exit, and there was different motivation behind it. So I exited a business in 2015 because I did not like my business partner. I hated my clients. I was stressed out. I was burnt out, and I didn't want to be there anymore. Now, I actually was due £30,000 for, it wasn't done on turnover, because the turnover was much higher. I don't even know how he calculated it. Again, I wasn't really in control of the whole partnership. It was very much his way or the highway, but he wanted me to sign a non-compete. Well, £30,000 was not going to help me live for the next 3 years. So I didn't sign the non-compete, which meant I waived the £30,000, but I still exited a business. So that, again, there was another way. Now, the difference with that was that I had no goals. I didn't know how I wanted to exit. I had no strategy around this. And this is why I'm so passionate now about helping people to figure out what it is that you want. Because the next time I came to even have a conversation about it, I didn't even realize my business was ready, and it was. But obviously that traumatic time really had taught me a lot of things, and this is why I say failure is never a problem, because as long as you've learned from it. If I'd have gone back and created exactly the same business and had the same issues, then I'd been a plonker and I needed to sort myself out. But I had learned from those and then got myself into a better position. So yes, so there are so many ways of exiting. You need to know what it looks like. I love the thing about sitting back in that rocking chair, imagining you're in your 80s, and sitting there and thinking about, I think I had another chat yesterday where someone said you can go back and regress and look at things and figure out what's going on, but you can also go forward in your thinking and imagine what's gone right and things. And I love the power of the mind, and if you sat back and think, how many years did I work for? Was I happy? Am I happy with myself for that? Or did I want longer as a retirement? Ask your older self what you want your retirement to look like and what you want your exit to look like, because sometimes you have the answers. They're just deep inside. So that's something else I do, which sit there on my pretend rocking chair thinking as an 80-year-old Jo, and it helps me out. So you want to know what that looks like, and you want to know the figure of what that looks like. Now, there are multiple ways of getting paid if you sell your business. You can be paid a lump sum all in one go. You could be paid lump sums over multiple years, or like me, I'm being paid monthly. over 3 years, but there was an option for over 5 years. So there's different ways of being paid. So again, think about what works for you. What do you want it to look like? But you need to know the number of kind of, if it was a lump sum or if it's going to be paid over, what does that figure need to be? And I think you need to realize that that figure, if we can work out what that figure is made up of, when we know what the figure is, then you can work your business backwards and figure out what your business needs to look like on a monthly basis. Okay, so for example, there are multiple ways of pricing and valuing a business, but very, very simplistically, if you had your turnover, 1 year's turnover could equal the amount that you get for a sale. Now, you might get more. Usually it's between 0.8 and 1.5 as a thing. But I like to do things when we push things forward and like do forecasts, looking a bit worst case scenario. And I think looking at like 1 for 1 would be kind of a not too negative, but a pretty good way of doing it. So if you wanted £1 million on the day you sold, you'd need to have £1 million turnover business. But if you wanted 100,000, your business would need to be worth £100,000 a year. Then what you can do is calculate backwards what that needs to be on a monthly basis. So it's a bit like the goal that we have for setting for like how, you know, whatever goal you want to earn next year, whatever, setting it like that. But if you know it's in 10 years' time and you've got to get there, you can slowly make a plan to know what turnover you need to hit every single month for the next 10 years to slowly get to that goal. And it makes it much more achievable rather than just trying to like that short-term goal, because actually you've got longer, and that's exactly what we did. So you need to know how much you want the business to be worth for, and you need to know how much you need to be turning over on a monthly basis. Now, why I say the monthly basis, this is number 2. The research I've done, and I didn't realize why this made my business so much more attractive, was that I invoice every single month all my clients and they pay by automated payment. Now, I didn't realize that that really impacts the sales price. So it makes our businesses very attractive for anyone because it's proven monthly recurring revenue. And if you say, for example, and because it's an ongoing service, so if you think you have a business that sells diaries, maybe the clients will come back once a year and they're going to come back at a certain point in the year, but then they might not come back the next year if they don't like it. You can't guarantee really the income. You'd have to guarantee that, you know, this is the Facebook ads this is the spend we do. And this is how, you know, you have to prove that kind of funnel and all of this. Whereas in our business, if we're doing a good job, the payments come in every single month. If, like me, you invoice everybody on a monthly basis and they're paying by direct debit or Stripe or whatever it is, but it's recurring. I didn't realize how attractive that was until I've spoken to other people that have sold different types of businesses and how you calculate those. We've got a really good setup, which is, it's obvious, isn't it, really? Because what people are quite sticky in our industry because we're holding on to a lot of their financial information and it's not easy to keep chopping and changing. So the monthly recurring revenue, automated sales, and obviously, I know we don't have to say this, but value-based pricing or, you know, a monthly fee rather than hourly rate. Okay, they're the things.
Yeah, because if you were not charging enough or charging by the hour, whoever is buying the company, acquiring the company is going to think, well, there's money to be made here, and that might be then it's going to affect the price, isn't it?
Exactly, because that's the other thing. You need to think when someone's buying your business, you need to have happy clients that are going to be happy on this journey. And I hadn't realized by having the conversations that I've had with all my clients about their exit, like we're doing now, just talking about what do you want it to look like. You don't have to ask loads of questions. Just like, have you ever thought about exiting? Maybe you should go and have a chat with your other half and figure out what that looks like for you. I have these conversations with my clients all the time. So when I came to the point of telling them that I'd sold, they were really proud of me, and they're like, oh my goodness, you've done what we've said, like what we've had this conversation. So I didn't realize that that was a great way to do this, because at the end of the day, the other thing you need to think about is not just the point of sale. I now have a year where if all my clients leave, I don't get that money, because they will, the price goes down. It's client clawback, you know, they leave, the price is going to go down. So you need happy clients at that point in time. But how are they going to stay happy if I'm not in the business for the next 12 months? So we need to think about that. So the next thing is exactly the same if you wanted to exit your business and be the president of the board once a quarter. Your business needs to be a proper business. It needs to run without you operationally. Your clients need to be happy without you. Now, don't get me wrong. You could build a business up on your own and manage all those clients, and you might be able to make a sale go over to somebody else. That's fine, with you removed. But you'd have to have so much trust in that person that's going to be buying the business and their team and what they're doing. And the clients have got to really get on with them. Whereas what's happened with mine is my team, I had client managers, they were looking after the clients. They're still looking after the clients. So nothing has really changed for my clients. So I've got more chance of keeping them there, which means it maintains the sale price. So it's not just about the day you sell, it's about making it operationally attractive so that somebody wants to take it over, and also so that the clients will stay for that year, or you might have a 3-year clawback. Everyone's got different kind of contracts and things. So having a business that runs without you, like we said yesterday, James Ashford says, a profitable enterprise that runs without you, of course it needs to be profitable. No one's going to buy something as well that's not profitable. So yeah, I think the 3 things, figure out what it looks like, what exit looks like for you, monthly recurring revenue with automated payments, good pricing and everything like that. And then thirdly, operationally, doesn't need you as the business owner. And I was thinking things like the brand and all of this stuff. Actually, that wasn't as important as those 3 things.
No, that's really interesting, because I can remember us having a conversation about, you have this plan as a business, as a team, you had a plan to sell, and that you were thinking about rebranding, and we had conversations about that in, I don't know, the last 6 months or so, and like, what did that look like, and that decided to sort of park it. But that was definitely part of your roadmap. But actually interesting to see it didn't matter because you'd removed yourself so much from the operations. But also maybe that's a lesson for people who have named their business after themselves, that it might be helpful to change that if that's your plan for a few years' time. And then, because then I suppose the expectation wouldn't be that you're in the business for a year necessarily if the business wasn't named Jo Woodbirch Lefty. I don't know.
Well, yeah, so I'm not in the business, but I think it's, we had the conversation. So if I was going to change the brand, we reckoned it would take about 3 years to really embed a really good brand and know that. And he said, so yes, that would increase the multiple that I got. But then we were putting alongside Making Tax Digital coming in, and lots of maybe traditional accountants wanting to exit, sell their practices and not go through that digital journey. There'd be a lot more businesses ready to be bought. So therefore that might drop the multiple. So I was like, okay, so I could end up in exactly the same position and then spend this next 3 years doing that. Now that may have been perfect for me, because obviously I was going to earn money for those next 3 years in the business. But for me, it was about that empty nest, that 5 years before I'm going to be an empty nester. And I want those 3 years having more time with my family. So you have to have those family goals and values. Once you have them, it's so easy to make decisions. Like you said, it's so easy to make decisions because I knew exactly what that meant and I could visualize it. But if we just do the work and not thinking about these long-term goals, it's really hard to make those decisions.
Yeah, I love this. Simon's watching on YouTube, and he said that he's in a different industry and he thought that the sales multiples sounded quite low. And we were talking about, you were talking about it being between 0.8 and 1.5. And I mean, that's kind of what my expectations were as well. I think that's maybe just the industry.
I think it is just the industry. I think there was, I did obviously go out to market, looked at other people. There were people that were only looking for practices that actually had bricks and mortar, that were actually on a high street. And then they wanted to buy the assets and everything. So that's a very different, you might get a different multiple there. There was other people that looked at my business and said, well, we wouldn't take on the team. So for me was, and that was a lower multiple as well. It just depends. It's like they say, it's a buyer's market. It's what someone wants and can see, and the value. What was interesting though, was that, we did think, being called Jo with Virtue FD would be an issue because of my personal brand. But actually, when I went to market, if I'm honest, and when I went anonymously to market and people looked at my business, I got a lower rating than when people knew who I was. Personal brand does make a difference, and visibility does make a difference.
So that's another reason for us to keep waving the flag for show up, make sure people know what you do. It's amazing. I've really liked learning about this, and hopefully that's given people lots of inspiration. I've seen people talking about they want to retire when they're 50, when they're 55, when they're 60. So hopefully now you can start thinking about, okay, well, at that point, what does life look like? What do I need to be earning? How do I get my business ready for that to be possible? And thanks, Jo, for sharing that. It's amazing. We are going to be back at 1 o'clock. We're going to have a chat with Emma James. So hopefully we'll see you for our second session today of Bookkeepers Bootcamp. Thanks for being here. We'll see you later on.
See you soon.